Hello world, good to be live with you. Here's the story. Jeremy Brown has spent 10 months in jail awaiting trial after the FBI arrested him on unrelated charges following his release of his recordings of FBI agents. He recorded the federal agents visiting his home, and he recorded a follow-up meeting in which the FBI told him of their partnership with Facebook and Twitter to monitor and target certain Americans. In that meeting, the agents offered to pay him to infiltrate and spy on right-wing groups for the federal government. So he lies in jail right now, and I actually interviewed him from jail today. I'm going to release some of my recordings here on YouTube today so you can hear what Jeremy says today. I'm also going to play some of the recordings that he took of the FBI. We're going to cover all of that on my show. Jeremy Brown has been covered in the media quite a bit, I think, by the leftist and rightist media, but I don't think any of them are really connecting the dots on this. If you look at the timeline alone of his case, this is a very strange case. It raises huge questions about federal agents and their real intentions in targeting him. And they're not just targeting him, they're burying him now. They are piling on the charges, more charges just in the past few months for this guy. They keep coming up with things. And I'm wondering, is it because he released recordings of them? So about to dive into all of it. Before we do, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, my favorite flashlight, the Fighter Flare flashlight, a tactical all-purpose flashlight that military and law enforcement love. Fighter Flare flashlight comes pre-built with an ultra-bright strobe light and other emergency modes that can blind any attacker. Each Fighter Flare also comes with a built-in power bank and compass, wire cutter, glass breaker. Each Fighter Flare comes with a hammer, a siren, multiple lighting modes, and it is weather resistant. If someone targets you, don't get caught unprepared. Invest in a Fighter Flare flashlight, and it could save your life down the road. Get the Fighter Flare flashlight today. Go to fighterflareflashlight.com, link down below. Use the promo code JULY for 15% off, plus express shipping and a lifetime replacement guarantee. It's a good thing to buy for gadget guys. If you have a gadget guy in your life, get him that flashlight. So Jeremy Brown was approached by the FBI. They randomly came to his door as part of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, December of 2020. Department of Homeland Security and FBI partner up. By the way, Alejandro Mayorkas is in charge of Department of Homeland Security. I've covered extensively how he keeps putting out bulletins about how Americans are the big terrorists now. We have to focus on domestic terrorism. We're going to be monitoring people and looking out for things people are saying online. Well, that's exactly what happens here. They come up to his door and say, "Hey, you posted some things online. We want to talk to you." He does a follow-up meeting with them. They try to recruit. Not only do they out their partnership with Facebook and Twitter to monitor and target Americans, they ask him if they can pay him to spy on right-wing groups. And he decides not to do it. By the way, they bring up, something might be going down in January, which he thought was peculiar because Trump hadn't even organized his January 6th get-together yet. But the inauguration was coming up, and people were upset that Biden was president, or that he had been elected, allegedly elected, right? So he turns it down. Life goes on. He actually does private security for a group. I'm not sure if I can say that group here on YouTube, but Jeremy does private security at January 6th. He says one of the speakers who spoke that day, because there was a stage, there were a lot of speakers, he was assigned to make sure that that speaker's mom was safe. Okay, but he was there January 6th. He says that the feds, I guess, looked at him, I think he said January 13th, and said he was good to go. He hadn't done anything wrong. He watches more and more people, more and more patriots get targeted by the FBI, locked up. And more information comes up about people like Ray Epps and information about perhaps the federal government's involvement in creating that chaos that happened January 6th. So then he recalls that meeting in December. He decides, you know what, I feel like I should release these recordings, because obviously he wasn't the only one that the feds were targeting, saying, hey, can you infiltrate? We'll pay you to infiltrate, spy on, and do whatever else. If you look up the FBI's history, our federal government has a history going back to 9/11. After 9/11, the FBI took this turn where they actually started to set up terrorism events and recruit potential terrorists. And if the potential terrorist agrees to be a terrorist, then they arrest him. I'm not making this up. I'm going to bring up this New York Times article right now. So, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but terrorist plots hatched by the FBI. This guy breaks it down here in the New York Times. This is a 2012 article. He's talking about a lot of these guys who end up being terrorists. They end up being ambivalent, incompetent, and adrift like hapless wannabes looking for a cause that the informer or undercover agent skillfully helps them find. Take the Stinger missile defendant, James Cromedy, a low-level drug dealer with a criminal record that included no violence, no hate crime, despite his rants about Jews. FBI set this guy up to be a terrorist and then arrested Mr. Cromedy when he never would have even been capable of doing the things that the FBI armed him to do. FBI armed him to be a terrorist and then arrested him for terrorism. And it says here that of the 22 most frightening plans of attack since 9/11 on American soil, 14 were developed in sting operations. These 14 out of 22 supposed terrorism attacks developed by the FBI. FBI developed the terror attack, okay, and then arrested the person they set up there to be the terrorist. So the question is, were people like Jeremy, who we're about to hear from, were they used by the FBI to create another one of them? Was this the latest terror attack designed by the FBI to then arrest Americans and call them terrorists? Jeremy turned down their recruitment, but his recordings prove what the FBI was up to in paying Americans to spy on each other for the federal government's monitoring, to help potentially arrest Americans. And the part about Facebook and Twitter working directly with the federal government is pretty disturbing too. So let's get into so here's the thing. Jeremy finally blows the whistle, releases the recordings to an independent journalist in March of 2021. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys heard about it. I didn't hear about it when he released it to this independent journalist. The journalist is Brandon Gray. He released it to Brandon Gray. He put it on his podcast. Then Jeremy gets targeted once he has released these recordings. The FBI then in September of 2021 comes to his house, arrests him, says, "Oh, you were a part of January 6th. You went past those bicycle wrecks, so you're arrested. Oh, by the way, we're going to search your house. Oh my gosh, you got guns. You don't have those guns registered." And so they start coming up with stuff. He's now been rotting in jail for 10 months on felony charges. And we're going to go into some of this. So let's get into the recordings first of all. Here is the first bit of what he released to the independent journalist. Here it is.
December 4th, I get the visit at my door, of which you have the video of.
Here we go.
So look at him. He's looking at my flag because my flag is displayed upside down. For those of you that don't know, an upside down flag is the official symbol of distress.
My name's Brett, Homeland Security. Homeland Security also. We are looking for Jeremy Brown.
He's not here.
No idea. Has he been here recently? The Sanders is on the charges.
He comes and goes.
Okay.
What is this?
Just 5 minutes, just some online stuff. Trying to calm me down. Just about posting things online.
So they're just there to see me about posting some things online. They're looking for me because I posted some things online.
It's a 5-minute now.
Very well. I'll give him the message, but then I'll see.
Are you related to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me give you my card in case you have given me a call. And then I think we can clear it up on our end, so we realize we just sign out.
I said, hey, I'll meet with you, but we're going to meet in a public place and I'm going to record it. So he agreed to that. December 11th is where you're going to hear the recording.
So that's him going on Brandon Gray's podcast, independent journalist. Shout out to Brandon Gray. I actually linked Brandon Gray's full podcast of this down below. This is all before he gets arrested this is long after January 6th, but he's in FBI's good graces. He's their buddy. They're still hoping that he'll be their undercover guy. Maybe he'll change his mind. So he's a great guy in the eyes of the FBI until he goes on Brandon Gray's show and releases not only that video recording of the agents identifying themselves as Homeland Security. They were FBI agents. He got, once they gave him their card and emailed him, he saw, oh, this is FBI. Homeland Security and FBI were working together under the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Okay, so by the way, Jeremy himself is a retired Army Special Forces Green Beret. He knows all about these covert operations and the recruitment tactics and the mind games. So, by the way, thanks for the super chat, JJ, checking your guys' comments here. Okay, so let's go on to a bit of the next part, which he releases on Brandon Gray's show.
December 4th, he introduces himself for FBI JTTF, and you'll hear him say, I said, yeah, I've worked with JTTF in the past, and he'll say, well, you might be in the future. Let's see how this goes.
Here we go, folks.
Guys,
How are you?
well, I'm normally in bed by now, but
Oh, you work at night?
no, I'm just a night owl. What's going on, guys?
Let's see, buddy.
I'm Brett. This is Paul. All right, well, you don't mind if I pull out my recorder, do you?
What do you gotta do?
All right. I don't want to get General Flended. Okay.
We're with Homeland Security, but we work on JTTF with FBI.
Okay. I noticed that.
Yeah. So it's no big deal. We decided to come out.
I've worked with JTTF before, so I'm
Okay.
familiar.
You might in the future too.
So see, there you have it. Well, you might in the future. So see, that's the subtle pitch. The FBI's JTTF is the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
We'll see how this goes. But like I was saying, it's no big deal. We just had to touch base with you. We just got some reporting about some comments that you made about Civil War.
All right, right there.
like what kind of comment?
So he says, we've got some reporting. All right. Now, in our world, reporting is, from assets or whatever, right? So he's about to get into where that reporting comes from, which is very, very key. But the tweet that he's referring to was actually posted on April 23rd of 2020 and mentioned nothing about Civil War at all. It was simply an attempt by me to link up with other people that have served in special operations or are currently in special operations with an intent to have lines of communications knowing that things were getting bad. Remember, this is in April. Now, this is when we started having the lockdowns and all that other stuff. So that's the tweet that he's referencing.
Like what kind of comment would make the DHS show up at my door on 7 o'clock or it was almost 8 o'clock, 7:40 I think is what it said.
It's early. Yeah, just some comments about trying to recruit people for Civil War.
Do you have those comments with you?
I do not.
Okay.
So
So then where did you get that report
I'm
from?
asking the question.
Okay. Because I have the actual tweet
sure, yeah.
if you want to look at it.
Exactly. And the way it works, I don't know if you know this, Facebook and Twitter both push stuff down.
Oh,
Come-
man.
Yeah, come look at it. We
Right
do this
there.
all day.
He says, the way it works, hey man, the way it works is Facebook and Twitter are directly pushing stuff to the federal government, law enforcement agencies, and terrorism task forces, and they're following up on it as if totally legit, as if it's their own collection assets reporting to them.
Insane. And he talked more about that with me from jail today. I'm going to play those recordings after I drop this final recording. So this is the recording of him and the FBI when they do the final recruitment push, trying to get him to agree to get paid to spy on patriots for the government. Here it is.
I wouldn't worry about it. Just want to sit down.
Do you mind if I see which tweets you're referencing?
Well, this
you printed a couple out.
Should I print it out?
I mean, I am a relatively vocal guy.
You're right. You can be as vocal as you want. Hey, you got First Amendment right to say whatever you want.
Because we don't even know, like I said, these groups or different things. And here, and Jeremy, this is even more to the point. Well, this doesn't even mention it.
I know, but this
is poker.
This is even more so. And this is what we do, and you being a former guy or whatever, you hearing stuff or you being around your group, and someone's like, hey, we're training tonight, and tomorrow some shit's going to go down. You calling us and letting us know, and we can prevent the next big thing. Oh, you know, great. So we're not here adversarial. We're here to clear your name, and we're also here if you want to work with us in the future, and you hear stuff in your circles that's bothersome, whatever. And not ex-wife, your stuff, like, because we can't get involved in civil matters. But if you hear of a pending, imminent situation in Tampa, we'd love to hear from you. And if we can, and again, I can't make any promises, but like, if you provide information that prevents something big, the government pays for that. The government, we would love to.
I'm not how CI works.
Right. And I don't want to overwhelm you, and I don't want to say we get your fingerprint picture and sign you up today, but we think that we can help you, you can help us, and we can definitely on this side of things, less aggravation. The person this morning, I can 100% tell you, it's nothing to do with our office, and Homeland Security or FBI. So that's why we're here too.
Right.
You got his number. We're 24/7.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, we weren't concerned, but we just have to, in order to close out this lead, we just got to sit down with you, say it's fine. I knew it from the second I was emailing you that you were a normal person.
Right.
Yeah, that it was bullshit. So that's where it is. We're at. If you have something, call my desk. You'll come. I'll talk to you about it. Especially if something is going on in Tampa. I mean, we're all of it. That's what we do. So we're at the domestic side. So anything domestic terrorism.
Yeah, there's international and domestic. Right.
So anything. I mean, 3 or 4 counties around here, we take care of it. So,
okay.
All right. Yeah. I appreciate.
I'm looking at your comments. Government pays? Exactly. So that got me thinking, okay, if the government were to, if the informant has a big incentive that, oh, if he's going to inform the government about something that's going to pop off, he gets paid for it, then informant has incentive to make something pop off, to create something. And that's what we see in the New York Times article I showed you. A lot of these terrorist scenarios, the FBI actually set up, when you look into the nitty-gritty details of it, the informants and the agents get paid for busting something. So they have incentive to create something to bust, it appears. So anyway, Jeremy just said, I'm not interested. He goes on to work that private security at January 6th. He's good to go. It's not until he blows the whistle and releases those recordings. He didn't just release those recordings. Brandon Gray, when he sat down long form on Brandon Gray's podcast, he broke down the mind games, the tactics that the FBI uses to recruit and develop these people. He outed it all. And I just think it's really strange timing. And now he's in jail. They won't release him. It was a misdemeanor, I guess, that happened at the Capitol. I mean, my understanding, he didn't even go inside. He just went past a bicycle rack. It's my understanding. But they found, so they use that. Oh, the fact that you were there on January 6th. They use that to say that, you know what, we're going to search your home. And then, oh my gosh, you got 2 unregistered guns. Your guns are unregistered. So that's a big no-no. We're going to arrest you for that too. And 2 grenades. You've got two grenades. Now the narratives on this guy are something else, and we're going to get his reaction to it all. But Daily Mail, a lot of people have covered him, and Daily Mail is saying that, oh my gosh, well, the FBI, it was a Zillow ad, you see. They saw that his home was listed on Zillow, and when they looked through the pictures of his home, there happened to be a whiteboard in the house that had something that it listed the fact that he has flashbangs in his house, and you cannot have flashbangs, you see. So they raided his home, and what did they find? They found these two guns. They also found two grenades, they say. Now, the grenades are not the flashbangs. Flashbangs and grenades are not the same thing. So I guess he didn't have flashbangs. And by the way, flashbangs are non-lethal. But here's NBC in Florida covering showing what the grenades looked like. I guess they found two grenades. Jeremy told me in the interview today those grenades were planted, according to him. But here it is.
When federal agents searched his home on September 30th, they found a short barrel rifle, sawed-off shotgun, and 2 hand grenades. 8 on your sides.
Yeah, so you saw the hand grenades. They are not the same.
With a research fellow, a rifle, sawed-off shotgun, and 2 hand grenades.
Nobody called those flashbangs. So anyway, apparently he had flashbangs written down, but only two hand grenade actual grenades were found. He says they were planted. Now this narrative spinning that not only was he did he have grenades, he took those grenades January 6th, they say. Now he was such a big threat, you see. He piled up enough grenades, took them to a hotel outside of the Capitol, and he was going to deploy those grenades January 6th. It says right here, this is Politico. Jeremy Brown, a group member in Florida, likely traveled to Northern Virginia with grenades that were found by investigators in a subsequent search of his vehicle. Okay, this doesn't mention the fact that he had only two. If they were his, he had 2 grenades. But apparently those 2 grenades were going to take down the government, and he put those 2 grenades in his hotel, according to the narrative. Now the narrative keeps spinning more and more, and now the government is saying, the feds are now saying that he's in possession of secret military documents as well. Here you go, Tampa Bay Times. Feds say January 6th defendant held old secret military documents. This is April of this year, months after he's been incarcerated. They're coming up with new charges. They're adding things, and we can't show you the fact that we can't prove that he has these documents because they're classified. You just have to believe us that he has these documents. So let me show a clip from my interview with Jeremy today. I talked to him about how this whole timeline, the timeline of the FBI arrest, if he was such a bad guy, and he had a pile of grenades at the Capitol, why'd they wait till September to arrest him? Why'd they say you're good to go in January? Okay, so here it is. Timing of all this seems so damning to the feds. If you were really such a criminal, such a felon, why would they wait until the very end of September 2021 to come find you and search for your weapons? 9 months later?
Right. And if I'm such a dastardly terrorist, why would they have found me right at my home? Which is where they found all of the dastardly terrorists in this case, right? Because it's all a fraud and it's all a sham. And see, the reality is that I have provoked the FBI into doing what they did because, see, like I said, their initial course of action was to ignore me into oblivion, right? But see, because of people like you, because of American citizens that come out and go to my rallies, and because of people that tell everyone that, hey, have you heard about this guy? See, they made an assessment that this guy is not going to shut up, right? And you can directly tie, and this point will be made in trial because, like I've told them in court, the government can't artificially print enough money to prevent me from testifying in this case, right? There's no plea deal they can offer. I've already accepted the fact that I'm going to either spend the rest of my life in prison or I will be, unceremoniously involved in a single car accident or whatever the plan that they have is. So in their own discovery that they've provided, you will see that there was no real even interest in me at all until after the Darren Beatty article that was released last June, right? That's when I started to get callbacks from people saying, "Hey, do you want to comment on this article?" Or, "Hey, I heard your story after reading the Darren Beatty article and then finding out that you actually were talking about this," right? That is when my voice got considerably louder, and that is when you see the FBI 302s of people that are motivated because of personal reasons now filing multiple reports, answering questions from the FBI or whatever. So they started to build a case against me, and it's extremely weak, right? It's extremely weak, and I can't wait to bring this to the American people's attention. And then their arrest warrant, search warrant, and everything was issued literally on the 29th of September. They executed on the next day. Now, this is not how they've done it in any of the other cases, right? And this is certainly not due process, right? Because, see, due process is you're supposed to have committed a crime. They're supposed to investigate who did the crime. They find out that it's you. They get the indictment, and then they come and arrest you, and you go to trial. But instead, what they've done here is now September is 9 months into this, right? So there's been 9 months of investigation. Then they arrest you, and then they hold you in jail for 10 months claiming, well, we're still investigating, right? And you see that even Congress is still investigating, right? And everyone is always investigating. It's almost like they're trying to run out some type of clock, right? And so that's exactly what happened. They literally built a flimsy manufactured case, which is why it is so easy to expose, because we haven't even had a conversation, and you're able to identify that none of this makes sense, right? And this is exactly the plan. And so when you plan an operation at the last minute and you don't go over all the details, you make mistakes, which then hurt your operation. And that's exactly what has happened now. And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to make me like one of the kingpins, right? So I didn't exist at the beginning. Now, in the docket entry 187 in the seditious conspiracy case, which I recommend everybody read it. Now they basically describe me as the mastermind behind all of this, and yet they tried to recruit me in December, right before January 6th. I mean, the entire story, if you exercise Proverbs 18:17, which basically says one man's story seems right until you hear the other side, right? And this is part one of the notes I have here is to talk about the game. The game is, right? You get charged with a crime. What does every lawyer tell you? Don't talk about your case, right? Okay, but the prosecution does nothing but talk about your case.
So at the time that the FBI was trying to recruit him, and by the way, this full uncensored interview is now live on my website, linked down in description, ivoryhecker.com, also my app. Search Ivory Hecker on the App Store, because a lot of this I can't put on YouTube because YouTube censors like crazy. But you want to hear Jeremy Brown's full interview, so check it out on my website and app. I'm going to play maybe one or two more clips that are allowed on YouTube. And here's the clip I'm going to play. He said that, at the time FBI was trying to recruit him, he was a part of a couple of clubs. One of them was a former special forces club. People who were in the Army Special Forces. It seems to me that the government is really leery of these people who know military tactics. They're really the government does not want these people to rally together and stand up for freedom. I have the Declaration of Independence here, and it says that when any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. Okay, that's the Declaration of Independence. It's the right of the people to abolish their current form of government, abolish the government, start anew. And that's exactly what the original Patriots did back in starting 1775. Our current government doesn't want that to happen again. And the guys in the special forces who know exactly how to get that going, the government's very concerned about. So Jeremy was a guy that they needed to stop anything he's doing independently, maybe get them back in with them, pay him to, just rejoin us. Don't do your own thing. Don't take a stand against our corruption, says the FBI. Anyway, instead of playing ball with them, he says he alerted his special forces club and his other club, which I'm not supposed to talk about on YouTube. I'll call it the Keepers of Oaths. Okay. The Keepers of Oath, which the oath to serve and protect. He was a part of that club too. And he warned them, hey, the feds are looking to infiltrate. They just tried to use me to infiltrate. I think that they're going to target you and try to take you down. And man, was he right. Can you believe the reputation this group developed in the months since then? The average small-minded drive-by American would say, would think that these guys are actual terrorists. But if you look at how he has been strung up, it's insane. Anyway, here is a bit of that soundbite.
That day, I warned both organizations that I had been approached by the feds and told them what was coming, and here we sit today.
Wow. Okay. So, looking up the history of the FBI's targeting of potential terrorists since 9/11, it's been covered a lot, including in the New York Times, that the FBI actually hatches its own terrorism plots and tries to lure otherwise non-criminal people into attempting terrorist activities.
That's exactly right. In fact, there's a book, I think the author's name is Trevor Aronson. I may have that wrong, but it's called Terror Factory. And the entire book, and this is no right-wing conservative, because of course he's added at the end some anti-Trump stuff, which I'm, not to get into the whole Trump thing, but there's more to the whole story than that. But so this guy is not a conservative, right? I mean, I read the book, but what he's indicating, and he writes the book from a perspective of, this is what we've done to poor young Muslim men, most of who are but lost young men that are being used by the government in order to hatch these manufactured terror plots in order to justify, right? And I tell my inmates in here, I say, this isn't a justice system, it's a justification system. See, everything is done, to create more prisons, to create more law enforcement agents, to create a larger budget. And I think you've seen that in Christopher Wray's testimony. But if you read that book, it talks about how much money the federal government has given the FBI to investigate so-called international terrorism, and yet even in 20-plus years, they've only prosecuted 500. And of those, most of them are fake manufactured plots that they did everything in their power, broke every single law they could get away with in order to manufacture these plots. And of course, when they...
Yeah, FBI breaking the law to try to create a criminal, which they're not supposed to break the law to enforce the law. Anyway, he's very knowledgeable on that. He goes in depth on my website in this phone call I just did with Jeremy Brown today. Link down in the description, ivoryhecker.com, or search your app. This is a good thing to watch on your Roku app. I'm on Roku as well. Search Ivory Hecker on Roku. You can watch this interview on your TV, uncensored, on my website. And I wanted to play another one of him actually addressing this new charge, the FBI, because originally their charges were pretty flimsy. You're going to try to make him rot in jail for unregistered guns or walking past a bicycle rack. So now they piled on something new this year. He has secret military documents. So I got his reaction to that here. Well, they're piling on the accusations against you now. I'm looking at this article from Tampa Bay Times. Feds say January 6th defendant held old secret military documents. Is that true?
Well, that's what they say. The documents they're claiming that they found. Of course, they didn't put them on the inventory list from the search warrant, so that's kind of odd, right? There are also documents from times in Afghanistan that I wasn't even in Afghanistan. That's odd. We're not even in Afghanistan, and these documents are like 20 years old. So they're really stretching. See, when you're going to plant evidence, you don't plant your HK-USP, right? You throw an old revolver that has rust on it, and you say, oh, look at this weapon we found here, right? I mean, you don't plant important things. You plant things that nobody's going to really question the authenticity of, but they look really, really bad, right? And so the classified documents is going to be a technique, and this, this is, you can put this in the Jeremy Brown predictions category. They're going to use the classified documents, and they're already using them to deny me access to them, right? Because they're claiming, oh, the judge doesn't have a security clearance, your lawyer doesn't have a security clearance, even though we've applied for them months ago, and they just can't seem to get them done. But do you want to know why, Ivory? It's COVID.
Wow.
The Constitution is suspended because of COVID. But see, what they're going to claim is they're going to claim, well, because this case involves national security documents, classified documents from 20 years ago in Afghanistan. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Afghanistan, but that's the place where we left like $85 billion worth of military gear and a bunch of Americans died. But these are the documents that we're going to be able to now close Jeremy Brown's trial. And no one's going to be able to read anything because, of course, we're going to have to put everything under seal because, I mean, we wouldn't want anyone to know what these documents from 20 years ago in Afghanistan say, right? Because that might be a threat to our democracy. And so they're going to close the hearing. No one's going to get to hear my testimony. No one's going to get to see any of this, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, this bad guy, this terrorist, oh, yeah, we're going to lock him away in a special communications prison built in the side of a mountain so that no one ever gets to hear the truth.
Insane. So one more clip to play for you guys. It was the final thing I asked him before we ran out of time, limited time in a Jailhouse interview, but this full 50-minute interview is on my uncensored website. But I asked him, why are the feds going to such great lengths? You said your group was hired for some private security, which makes sense if these are, guys with military background. You want someone with a sharp military background to do private security. I know when I worked at Fox hired former military guys to protect me while I was covering certain dangerous events. So that's, you're a private security group. Why are the feds going to such great lengths and they don't really have anything on you? Why? Here's what he said.
It's about any group associated with the defense of American principles. And see, this is why they've gone after school board parents, right? Anyone that disagrees with them is a threat, right? I mean, I'm telling you, people, you've got to read books, okay? Read Animal Farm, and you will see that Napoleon the pig simply just murdered anyone that he thought might cause problems for him. They create bad guys like Snowball the pig. They create these mythical stories about how Snowball is trying to overthrow the farm. I mean, these are all stories meant to depict how these communist, totalitarian, tyrannical regimes gain power because they're evil and they have no concern about lying to you. They'll tell you that boys are girls and girls are boys. I mean, this is how absurd. They will award a man Woman of the Year.
You have 1 minute remaining.
And so it's not just everyone thinks January 6th is just January 6th. No, this is just one more symptom in the cancer that is the overthrow of America. I mean, these Marxist, communists, whatever ist you want to call them, okay? They have America in their sights, and they're very close to achieving their goal, which is the total dismantling of the way this country was founded. There is a threat to democracy, and well, first of all, we're not a democracy. That right there is a lie, right? So this is all planned, and until you wake up to the plan, you're going to continue to be crushed by it.
So what should people do to stop this plan?
You know, that is an individual question that everyone needs to ask themselves. But I can tell you one thing: don't do nothing, because that's the only thing evil needs to triumph, as Edmund Burke said long ago.
Good point. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. And
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
We just finished the convo in the nick of time. But anyway, full uncensored interview, link down below, ivoryhecker.com, or search Ivory Hecker on your Roku or in your Apple App Store. Android won't let me in yet. They don't like me. But links also down description for that original whistleblowing video he did, which then got picked up by more media. Like he said, in June, there was a big article on him. Eventually, the feds came, shut him down, locked him up. And also, he decided to run for office now that he's in jail. He started a campaign running for office. As you'll see, I linked his website down below. And his campaign is actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, will you interview him?" And his story is incredible. It's just really eye-opening. It shakes you up. It makes you really think, what sort of time to be alive are we in right now? And what can we do as Americans to preserve American exceptionalism right now? Because we're in some scary times. Anyway, link down below. He has a GoFundMe as well. I linked all of those things down below. Hey, thanks, Stevie, for the super chat or super sticker. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for supporting my independent coverage on my website and app. And we will see you guys tomorrow. We're finally going to get to that really interesting topic about 911 that had to be postponed from Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.